I just want to say welcome to Dharamshala. Again, this is our third meeting in a sense, but met both of them in Chicago. It's a great honor and privilege. So instead of diminishing the excitement, I would have Liz introduce the whole initiative so that you have whole information, and our two honored guests will share their views and hopefully advice for Central Tibetan administration and Tibetan people as well. That's what His Holiness wanted you to say something. So, as far as we are concerned, we had sumptuous dinner and good chat last night, but now I think the floor is for Liz.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to join us this morning. My name is Liz Bernstein, and I have the privilege and pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Nobel Women's Initiative. The Nobel Women's Initiative is based in Ottawa, Canada, but it is an organization that's international, that's founded by Women Peace Prize laureates who use the prestige of the Peace Prize and the courage of the individual Nobel Peace Prize laureates. And the courage of the individual Nobel Peace Prize laureates to support women, human rights and peace activists, and organizations and movements worldwide working for peace with justice and equality. And we have the privilege of being here at the invitation of His Holiness and the Central Tibetan Administration again. We have come before, 5 years ago, I think, to celebrate or to mark 50 years in exile of His Holiness and the Tibetan people, and it is really our privilege to come again and to serve in solidarity with the people of Tibet. And the organization has not only the laureates with us here today, but others who are unable to be here today. Ms. Tawakkol Carmen from Yemen was to have joined us, but unfortunately the conflict has increased in her homeland in Yemen. And in fact, her home, her personal home, was ransacked just last week. And the violence has increased, the refugees are fleeing, and she was unable to join us, but sends her warm greetings and solidarity. When we last saw her in June, she was telling us how she'd been invited many times to China, but had refused to go, given the situation with Tibet and respect for His Holiness. Our other Peace Laureate member of the Nobel Women's Initiative, Lama Gaboyi from Liberia, was to have joined us as well. You may have been hearing much about her homeland now with the crisis of Ebola that they are facing. But that's not what's kept her away this time. She is an avid peacemaker, and she's with her sisters in South Sudan as they are working on negotiations to bring an end to the conflict in South Sudan. And she is working with women from both sides of the conflict to participate in the negotiations there, and felt it very important for her to be with her sisters in South Sudan, practicing peace and nonviolence in the spirit of His Holiness and the Tibetan people. But they and our other laureates, Mermaid Maguire and Rigor Menchutum, are also with us in spirit and with you in spirit. It's such an honor for us to be here. We, as the Nobel Women's Initiative, take these delegations very seriously to be here and listen and learn the long history of peacemaking, of nonviolence, and of democracy that you're practicing now, and take it back to our homes. We have a delegation with us of members from the States and Canada and Brazil and different countries in India, who will also be listening and learning and taking the lessons back and the solidarity back to our countries, to our friends, families, and the media where we live as well. And it's particularly meaningful for us to be here at this time with you. And also, as we are in India marking Gandhi's birthday as well tomorrow, it's a very significant and important time for us to be here and absorbing the spirit of nonviolence and peacemaking. So thank you very much. Without further ado, I will pass on to you.
Jody. Yes, Shirin.
صبح بخیر میگم به همه شما و خوشحالم که امروز اینجا آمدم که با شما صحبت کنم.
Good morning to all of you. I'm very glad to be here with you and talk to you.
من عبادی شیرین عبادی هستم، برنده جایزه صلح نوبل 2003 که ایرانی هستم و از سال 2009 مانند هولینس، دالای لاما و مانند شما مجبورم که در تبعید باشم.
My name is Shirin Ebadi. I'm from Iran. In 2003, I won the Nobel Peace Prize. And since 2009, I am living in exile, like His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and the majority of the people who are here.
من همواره برای مبارزات مسالمت آمیز دالای لاما و مردم تبت احترام زیادی قائلم.
I have always respected the peaceful struggle of the Dalai Lama and of the people of Tibet.
و به همین دلیل از هر فرصت ممکن استفاده کردم برای اینکه حمایت خودم را اعلام بکنم.
This is why I use every opportunity to state my support.
این اولین باری نیست که من اینجا هستم.
This is not the first time that I have traveled here.
5 سال قبل هم اینجا به دعوت هولینس آمده بودیم.
5 years ago, we were here on the invitation of His Holiness.
من به خاطر دارم حدود 8 سال قبل قرار بود که یک سامیت بزرگی از برندگان صلح نوبل در کشور کوستاریکا برگزار بشه.
I do remember that approximately 8 years ago, there was going to be a summit of the Nobel Peace Prize winners in the country of Costa Rica.
و رئیس جمهور وقت کوستاریکا خودش برنده جایزه صلح نوبل بود مثل هولینس.
And the president of Costa Rica himself was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, like the Holiness.
اما به خاطر اینکه دولت چین فشار آورده بود مجبور شد که دعوتش رو از هولینس پس بگیره.
But due to the pressure of the government of China, he had to pull back his invitation from His Holiness.
و به همین دلیل هیچ یک از ماها در اون سامیت شرکت نکردیم.
And that's why none of us participated in that summit.
برای اینکه به دولت چین نشون بدیم که مردم تبت و هولینس تنها نیستند.
In order to show the government of China that the people of Tibet and His Holiness are not alone.
زیرا که شما حرفتون حرف حق، عدالت، حقوق بشره.
Because what you're talking about is about justice, is about righteousness, is about human rights.
و این چیزی است که و به همین دلیل است که دنیا از شما حمایت میکنه.
And this is why the world supports you.
متاسفانه این اتفاق در آفریقای جنوبی هم افتاد.
Unfortunately, the same thing happened in South Africa.
آفریقای جنوبی سابقه بسیار خوبی برای مبارزه علیه تبعیض نژادی داره.
There is a history of fighting against racial discrimination in South Africa.
و ما به هیچ وجه انتظار نداریم که در چنین کشوری به هولینس 3 بار ویزاش رو رد کرده باشد.
And that's why we don't accept this country to refuse giving a visa to His Holiness 3 times.
و من بسیار تعجب میکنم از دزموند توتو که چرا در این زمان ساکته.
And I'm very surprised that Desmond Tutu has taken silence at this time.
میدونم که دزموند توتو داخل حکومت نیست.
I know that Desmond Tutu is not part of the government.
اما من تعجب میکنم چرا مثل ما اوپنلی صحبت نمیکنه.
But what I'm surprised is that he's not speaking openly like the rest of us.
در شرایط ما یادمون باشه هر کس که در مقابل یک دیکتاتور ساکته یعنی در حقیقت شریک جرمونه.
Let's remember that whoever decides to stay silent in front of a dictator, that person is contributing to the crime of dictatorship.
و من برای شما مردم تبت که در تبعید هستید و همچنین برای هولینوس و کابینه و اون مرکز فلان خیلی اهمیت قائلم برای اینکه سکوت نکردید.
And I think that your work, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and the people of Tibet, and the center and the administration of Tibet are doing a very important work by not taking up silence.
میدونین که در شما بهتر میدونین که در چین چه تعداد عظیمی مردم زندگی میکنن.
You know that the population of China is huge.
اما متاسفانه برخی از اونها سکوت میکنن در مقابل فجایعی که میبینند.
But unfortunately, a number of them have taken up silence as with regards to the atrocities that they see.
دولت چین برنده جایزه صلح نوبل لیو شابو رو در زندان کرده.
The Peace Prize winner from China, Liu Xiaobo, is imprisoned there.
فقط به خاطر اینکه شعر گفته برای در ستایش آزادی.
Because he has written poetry for freedom.
آیا درست است در مقابل حکومتی که شاعرها رو به زندان میاندازه سکوت کنید و اعتراض نکنید؟
Is it correct not to protest and take up silence in for a government that puts poets in prison?
همچنین دوست من ربیع خدیو که از رهبران اویغور هست از کشتار چین که مسلمانان اویغور رو کشته بسیار صحبت میکنه.
Also, my friend Rabia Khadif, she talks a lot about the atrocities and the killing of the Muslims, the Uyghur Muslims in China.
و به خاطر اینکه او ساکت نشسته در مقابل جنایات چین 5 پسر او رو زندان کردند.
And since she is not silent, they have put 5 of her sons in prison.
دولت چین در زمینه روابط بین المللی هم مرتکب اشتباهات زیادی شده.
When it comes to international relations, the government of China has made many mistakes as well.
بزرگترین حامی رژیم جمهوری اسلامی ایران دولت چینه.
The greatest supporter of the Islamic Republic of Iran is China.
و حکومت ایران حکومتی است که مثل حکومت چین مدافعین حقوق بشر، شعرا، روزنامه‌نگارها رو زندان میکنه.
And the government of Iran is similar to the government of China by putting in prison poets, journalists, and people who defend human rights.
الان تعدادی از وکلایی که همکار من هستن در زندانن.
At the present time, many of the attorneys who were my colleagues are in prison.
و گناه اینها این است که اونها هم در انجیویی که من تأسیس کردم بودند و ما همه در اون انجیو از متهمین سیاسی در دادگاه مجانی دفاع می‌کردیم.
And their charge is having worked with me and having been members of an NGO that I founded, which was defending political prisoners who were in prison and supporting their families in a pro bono manner.
دولت چین منابع ملی ما رو غارت میکنه.
The government of China loots our national resources.
تمام قراردادهای دولت ایران با چینه.
all of the agreements of the government of Iran are concluded with China.
و در مقابل در شورای امنیت سازمان ملل از ایران حمایت میکنه.
And when it comes to the Security Council of the United Nations, it supports Iran.
همچنین فراموش نکنیم که حق وتوی دولت چین در شورای امنیت چند بار مانع از این شد که بشار اسد رو به دادگاه ICC بفرستن.
Also, let's not forget that China used its veto right and stopped sending Bashar Assad to the International Criminal Court.
بنابراین میبینید که مردم ایران مانند مردم تبت با در یک جبهه هستند.
Therefore, as you can see, the people of Iran are with you, the people of Tibet. We are in the same position.
و اجازه بدید که بگم مردم مظلوم دنیا طرف شما هستند.
And I want to say that all of the oppressed people in the world are your supporters.
شما تنها نیستید.
You're not alone.
چشم دنیا به شما و به مبارزات شماست.
The world is looking at you and is looking at your struggle.
و اما آخرین کلام.
And my last word.
آمدن من به اینجا فقط برای حمایت از هولینوس و نیست، بلکه آمدم اینجا که از ایشون الگو هم بگیریم.
I'm not only here to support His Holiness, but I'm here to learn from His Holiness.
که یاد بگیریم چگونه می شود مسالمت آمیز بیش از 50 سال مبارزه کرد.
So that we can learn how one can continue one's struggle in a peaceful manner for over 50 years.
آمدم اینجا از شما مردم یاد بگیرم که چگونه میتوان بیش از 50 سال در تبعید بود ولی که ناامید نبود.
And I'm here to learn from your people how to be in exile for over 50 years and not lose hope.
و تا زمانی که ما امید خودمون رو و اتحاد خودمون رو داشته باشیم مطمئن باشید که بالاخره پیروز میشیم.
And rest assured that we will be victorious once we keep our solidarity and our hope.
و من مطمئنم روزی در تبت آزاد با شما صحبت خواهم کرد.
And I'm sure that I will be talking to you in free Tibet one day.
Thank you.
As always, it is a real pleasure to be here in Dharamshala. When His Holiness invites us, it really makes us feel proud. He is such a global leader in so many ways that when he asks us to come, there is no way we can say no. There was no way we would want to say no. This is my third trip here, and I remember with great love my first trip because a new meeting hall was being inaugurated, and His Holiness asked me to inaugurate with him, and there's a plaque on the meeting hall with his name and mine. And I feel so privileged when I look at it to see His Holiness and Jody Williams. I mean, who is she, right? I think it is particularly propitious that we are here now. And I will elaborate a little on what Shirin said about the travesty of attempting to hold a Nobel Peace Summit in South Africa when they have a history of refusing to allow His Holiness to visit, even on trips that are not in the least political. When we first learned that the Nobel Summit this year would be in Cape Town, South Africa, hosted by President de Klerk, a Nobel laureate, Archbishop Tutu, a Nobel laureate, and the woman mayor of Cape Town, we immediately sent a note expressing our deep concern that this site had been chosen given the history of South Africa in bending to Chinese pressure and refusing to allow His Holiness to visit. A level of confusion was made for many of us that he was even not allowed a visa in terms of going to celebrate Desmond Tutu's 80th birthday. How that could possibly be a threat to the government of China was extremely confusing to us. Thus, we expressed our concern. We had a lot of dialogue about this, and back and forth with the organizers in South Africa, amongst ourselves, the Nobel women, about what we should do. At first, we considered actually going to the summit and making public protest in the streets of Cape Town. But then we learned that there was a possibility to move this summit, and His Holiness would participate. So how could we possibly go to South Africa? So the Nobel women sent a letter to the organizers, and we did media interviews expressing our dismay, and therefore we were going to have to boycott the summit in Cape Town, South Africa. And in our letter, we noted our confusion, especially because His Holiness advocates a middle way, a middle path. And the Chinese government does everything in its power to pretend that His Holiness is a rabble-rousing revolutionary when he is but a revolutionary of the spirit, and tries to make people believe that he is trying to separate China. We believe that we could not, in good conscience, go to South Africa when our whole mission as the Nobel Women's Initiative is to stand with people when their human rights are being violated. Obviously, His Holiness's human rights are being violated, and in denying him a visit, they are also denying the rights, the human rights of the people of Tibet. And there was no way we could go. We are proud to say that that protest had resulted in the end of that summit. It has been canceled because enough Nobel laureates refused to go. Yes, we think that's deserves a new plaque. So when we are able to come here immediately in that context, it felt like it was meant to be. Karmic. Thank you. We felt it to be indeed karmic to now be here, to actually be with you, to stand with His Holiness, to meet with His Holiness, right after we were able to help stop the summit in South Africa. I think that, I hope that the people of Tibet, both in Tibet and in exile, understand that they really do have our support. That any people living in oppression in their own country, that people who have to flee oppression will always have the support of the Nobel Women's Initiative, and as Shirin rightly said, of all people who are fighting oppression. There is brother and sisterhood and community among peoples who are struggling to be free. And we will always be with you. And every time His Holiness invites us, we will be here. And I hope he invites us more often because it's fun to be with you. Always make me laugh. As does His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So thank you so much. Thank you for all of you coming here and listening to our words of support.
You have heard the representative of Women Nobel Initiative by Liz, and two of our distinguished guests here, Jody Williams and Erin Ebadi, and they have come all the way to show solidarity to the Tibetan people, to the nonviolent struggle that we Tibetans practice, and especially to pay respect to His Holiness Dalai Lama, because this year happens to be the 25th anniversary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Institute in Oslo already observed and celebrated that a few months ago. And when I wrote an invitation to Jody and Erin and others, and it's very kind of them that they happily and readily agreed to come to Dharamshala, because when I last met them in Chicago, actually I did overhear Jody saying, His Holiness, I'll come to see you again in Dharamshala. I took that cue and waited, and then this time I extended the invitation, and it's very kind of them. All four of them were willingly coming here, but then for various reasons, as Liz explained, two of our friends could not come here. But we are really excited, honored. Not only we have two great Nobel Laureates, but also their friends and delegates from around the world, and with whom I got the privilege to spend some time yesterday, and it went longer than expected, because they all had, some of them had jet lag, but I think they were dozing off, maybe because I was not saying much, but I welcome to Dharamshala, even though we ourselves are guests here in India, because India is our host, and Indian government and Indian people has done the most for Tibetan people compared to any country in this planet. Having said that, we consider Dharamshala our home, temporary home. So hence, whenever we get guests, we always welcome them, including our Indian media people also from time to time. Now, we invited Nobel Laureates to come here, as I explained to you. One, this is the 25th anniversary of His Holiness being awarded Nobel Peace Prize. Number two, we chose October 2nd, Gandhi Jayanti, because of all the people who deserve Nobel Peace Prize, is actually, or was, Mahatma Gandhi. In some ways, one dent in the Nobel Peace Prize award is to miss the person who deserved the Nobel Peace Prize was Mahatma Gandhi ji. So we felt that to observe and celebrate 25th anniversary of Nobel Peace Prize being awarded to His Holiness on the day of Mahatma Gandhi's birthday is a message. In many ways, Nobel Peace Institute does not award Nobel Peace Prize posthumously, but this is a way to celebrate by Nobel laureates, all of us, and send a message across India that Mahatma Gandhi was the true Nobel laureate, but he's not with us anymore. But his vision, his philosophy of nonviolence and ahimsa is very much adopted around the world, including by Tibetans. So we want to cherish Mahatma Gandhi's principle and reaffirm our commitment to nonviolence as an issue. And number three, we have invited to all the Nobel laureates to come here and advise Tibetans on our commitment to nonviolence and peaceful method, because they are the success stories. As you all know, Ebadi was one of the first judges in Iran, and she went on to become a chief justice. But then in 1979 revolution, she was removed, and then went on to defend human rights and women's rights for many, many years, and went through a lot of personal challenges, including being in exile with us, with complete separation from her family for many, many years. So her words, wisdom, and her life story, it's an inspiration for Tibetans and also minorities and other nonviolent movements around the world. And I did not say much about Jody Williams, because she is from the great state of Vermont, next to Massachusetts. So having spent...
Vermont is better.
She claims Vermont is better. I think we'll have the debate later. But both Massachusetts and Vermont fall in the Red Sox Nation camp. But she's not a sports fan, But she is from Vermont. When she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, I was very excited and read everything about her, including, you should go and check pictures, Google her pictures, of her place, the dirt road and the SUV she drives, and she was an activist, you know, of landmine, and single-handedly, she and her organization, of course, managed to ban landmines, right? And so that victory sent a message across the world that peace and justice can prevail. A single person's determination with the help of an organization can prevail. And yesterday, Erin was explaining that during Iran and Iraq war, so many landmines have filled the border areas that still is very dangerous for civilians and normal people. So Jody Williams has great background of being role model for people across the world, particularly Tibetans, and especially because it's especially women, Tibetan women, I should say, yes. So I'm really excited that both of them accepted the invitation and they're here in Dharamshala. So we have a couple of engagements today. Right after this, they will share the wisdom and advise CTA staff members and other guests. And then they will be visiting a couple of places here. Tomorrow morning, we have the public event where His Holiness has kindly agreed to join. And then afternoon, we have engagement with students at Tibetan Children's Village. So, we have, even though they're jet lagged and tired, but we have packed schedule for them. And it's very, very kind of them and their friends to come to Dharamshala. So I just want to thank on behalf of Central Tibetan Administration for accepting the invitation, by being here, and especially to show their solidarity and support, not just in words, but in deeds, because they issued the first press release saying they will not participate in South Africa's Nobel Peace Laureates Summit because they think that His Holiness deserves to be there. If he cannot be there, they are not going to be there. They are the first ones. Now the event is also cancelled as far as South Africa is concerned, and now it will be held somewhere else, which maybe you will come to know tomorrow. So with that note, I want to thank all of you for being here. So please join me in welcoming them and giving them loud applause, as we say in India. Thank you. Ande tande nganzu phebe sargo ba yobi inde kabla antherinde Nobel shide sengda shenge nabani Jody Williams Shirin Ebadi nabani de phetubadi nganzu gaushda chungsung ko nabani de dende shu godendi zosheshe khonzu cho la ni Nobel shide sengda phyche lo ni sanga khowe ki 먼저 로디 숭진 지고래 달래 가샤 cấp 줍시비 토네 니동 줍시디 군대 줍시비 침부초라 거딘 제딩 로 숭진 시구 여대 갑라 아니 코나만이 폐체 노벨 시대 생다 피베 로니 상아 코베기 두젠 탕 안믹세 아니 상니 진도 주베 세니 차구 여대 갑라 디 아니 마하트마 간디지기 통가 인도 갑라 안 디니 모 숭진 제베 인베이나 간지 테니 인베이네야 외시 상원 통버레 간세나 Nobel shide sengda ngonera phu gwa chikdi Gandhiji chagi yodo kabla ta ine Quran so ki dikshi dodan che dedong su chingbala phugi me yodo kabla ani Gandhi jendi nimo ani nganzu tujen di sungzin chebe yimbe ina ani ngone Nobel shide sengda phu gwa sa so chik an Mahatma Gandhi chagu ore che 나란 속이 아니 가서 우리 달랜디 트나삼바 탕 공기 체메 시베 람토네 자든 쯔샤베디 잠니치 용라 켈렌 셰샤바다 락다 셰샤바 용도 갑라 아니 페미딕주 토안데 페미만네 콘서초 가공 람데따 아니 시베 람디 아니 간주 짜체베기 가서 람인도 갑라 들 무투네 자든 쯔야기 담자 장마인 셰셰 쉐디 엔다나 시다 코나마 대페체 먼저 비미딕술라 임베 이내야 갈루블람도 나로나 셰체 먼저 슈위엔 갈루람도 시다는 것도 나머디 기엔 건 참에 일을 잡이 토네 먼저 사든스라 이내야 덴데라 아니 랍체기 투베 수고 예베 이제 슈위 디송사 콘나면이 다는 시 노벨 우먼 이니셔티브 소버디게 란데 담살라 페버 투체나 슈에다 참지 슈에 투체나